Hello, this is the Baraboo Buds in Kathy's garage. Today, I'm Kathy Calabrese, and this is my friend Pat Taylor. And we are here to teach you today how to make some beautiful things for your garden, specifically mosaics. And today we're going to focus on a stepping stone, because that's a great first step. Okay, the technique that we are going to use today is called Pique Assiette, and that's French for plate thief or a scrounger. And it's a mosaic technique that refers to using scrounged materials found in nature or recycled. And both Pat and I really enjoy using found things, and many of our things are found.
Yes.
In our yards or at the dollar store. We have some seashells, all kinds of things. So we're going to show you some of those today. And because it's plate thief, of course, we do use some plate pieces. And we're also going to show you how to use plates for that. Okay, you're going to need some thin set mortar, and you're going to need some sanded grout. And that's available at home improvement stores. Sanded grout comes in different colors. You can buy dark gray, you can buy brilliant white. This one happens to be an ivory color. And these mix with water. So you're also going to need some water. And I use recycled containers so that I can mix, and if I'm called away or something, I can cover it, come back to it in a little while. I also think you're going to need some craft sticks for application and for mixing. You're going to need some safety things, a mask, which in these days we're wearing anyway, so you're going to need to wear a mask because it's essential that you do not inhale any of the powder while you are mixing. It's mortar. You don't want that in your lungs. You are also going to need some protective eyewear. If you don't wear eyeglasses, you're going to need some goggles. I find that the powder really dries my hands, so I always wear some gloves, right? And you're going to need some rags for wiping grout. And let's see, I think that's all for the equipment except for the plates. Okay? And what we do is keep our eyes open at garage sales and places like St. Vincent's to find cheap plates that have some pattern on it or color that we think would be good for a mosaic. And you use this tool here. What's the name of this tool?
Tile nippers?
Tile nipper, that's right.
Do you score it first?
Sometimes.
Okay.
And sometimes it's too thick. But why don't you talk about scoring it then? Because I have some scores.
Oh, okay. I mean, another way is just I always like to do do things in a speedy way and a kind of a response to the materials, but I wrap it up in a towel and take a big old hammer and go to it. But that's not the best way, Kathy. You're right. I like your method much better as far as more reliable results and the safety part of it.
Okay, so shall we do some?
Well, sure, we could show that.
Okay, let's do that.
Kathy, I think you said you could color these. You color this mortar or the grout in other ways too?
I experimented and added some paint color, just some acrylic paint I had a pot here that I used, and just with it was a unusual green plate.
Yes.
So I wanted to try it, and so I used a green, and it came out pretty well, I think.
Has this been out in the weather, or is this more new?
Yes, it has.
Okay, so it
and
definitely.
So far, it's okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Didn't fade.
And you can see with I've scrounged a little bird and mortared that on during the whole process, and that's held up pretty well too. So
very nice. So we're going to show you some ways to turn these plates into smaller units, into little tiles for your mosaic. You can, as I talked about, you can just cover them up and bang them with the hammer. That's one way to do it. Then you usually get lots of long shards. So they're a little harder to work with on a square tile. Kathy already showed you her whole little collection of pre-made shapes. So, you know, the marbles, the rocks, the seashells. So this is if you want to have a certain pattern, you want to have a repeated size, you might want to score and cut these plates. So this is a glass cutter, and there's a little wheel on here, and you can use that. You want to use that to cut through the glaze. It makes a very fine line in the glaze. So this will encourage the fracture, the breakage, to go along those lines instead of being in long shards. And this is this must be how you did your green plate that you just showed us, because it has.
I did mine a little bit differently.
Well,
so
it has such nice rectangles. This is still.
Yeah, it hasn't scored it very well.
Yeah, I haven't. No, it hasn't. There we go. It didn't score well along that thicker. Along this thicker line. As you can see with the plate, depending on what you're making, if you're making something that's flat, you want your pieces to be flat. So you can use this material along the edge of the plate, but this material here is not usable for most things, but then in the middle of the plate it'll be usable again because of the depth of it. But depending on what you're making, that depth may not be an issue.
And you do want to try to use materials if you're doing something like a pot or something like that are of equal thickness. With a stepping stone, you have a little more freedom to go into different thicknesses because of the fact that you don't want it to be slick when you walk on it. And that is one of the dangers with using the glass round things from the dollar store, is if you did one completely in that, it would be kind of slick. So having some different kinds of surfaces really helps. Now look at these nice pieces here that you're using. That's wonderful.
So when you arrange it, you can either try to keep the pattern all the same, or you can alternate depending on what you're looking for. So it's just a matter of kind of playing with the pieces till they please you.
Right. Now another way to do it is, like you said, just take the hammer. Oops. Oh, look at this nice piece. Oh, okay. And just did nothing.
There you go.
There.
That was one.
All right.
Whoa.
So you can see the pieces that I've done here. And then if you take your crimper, you can just go around and get some pieces like that. But the scoring, when I first started, I did not have that tool that she's, and I did a lot of this, which can get you kind of some of the same.
Mm-hmm. There, that was better. I cut that edge better.
Ooh, look at those pretty pieces. I like this.
I found too, Kathy, if you let people know that you want broken dishes, people will leave them on your doorstep. And so soon you can have a pretty nice collection.
This all started because I had some very beautiful Polish pottery, and my son broke a very expensive piece. And I was determined not to be one of those parents who cherish things more than her children. So I took a deep breath and said, okay, well, we're going to start a box for broken pieces that we can make into something else. And that's what started it all when they were children.
Oh, that's
and I kept those pieces for a long time until I learned how to do this. Now this piece here, which is the base of the saucer, is really difficult to use. So this kind of stuff we just throw away. And you get plenty of pieces, as you can see, just from doing it the other way.
Yeah, so really it's better to collect more, I think, being a hoarder. And then, because you don't know how much you're going to lose of that item, as far as if you have a particular color that you want, save up and then grab them when you see them, kind of thing.
Okay. The next thing to do after you have collected your pieces is to design your stepping stone. You can see Pat now is incorporating some of the pieces that she just made into her stepping stone.
Yeah, I really like the blue willow. I mean, it's kind of a personal favorite. My mom always had these dishes, and I used to have a whole wall full of them.
And she's incorporated the plate. She's got glass pieces, stone. And, if that's what makes it so fun, is to try to get different pieces in that kind of reflect your personality and fun. So what I've done is I've taken mine, kind of got an idea of what I'm going to do on just a plain cement stepping stone. I have my full flex thin set mortar in a container. And I'm going to add some of the powder. Now I put on gloves because I find that the mortar really dries out your skin. Oof, you can see it's very powdery. Sorry. And I'm going to start with about half a cup. I'm going to add water slowly and mix. And what you're looking for is a consistency of I would say frozen custard. So, you don't want it to be too wet, and you don't want it to be too dry. It has to be just right. How's that look?
Yeah, you've incorporated all the dry stuff. It's not like a biscuit batter. You want to get it all mixed in, huh?
Right. And that's why I only use, because I do it all by hand.
Right.
I think we're looking good.
I've noticed that the temperature makes a big difference on how quick that sets up. I used to sit out on the deck in the sun to work, but oh my goodness.
Now, in my design, I am trying to portray a river kind of, or a stream going through my stepping stones. So I have collected some blue glass beads. However, I've also noticed that to make water look more like water, you don't want to have just blue. So I try to incorporate some darker blue, some green, to make it look more natural. That's what works for me.
Right.
So keep that in mind. So what I'm going to do today is spread my mortar to the edge for that path.
So how thick does that have to be? Do you want it to ooze around the edges or not?
To ooze around the edges?
Of the pieces that you put in?
Just a little bit.
Okay. So,
not much.
So it's not just gluing down the bottom, it's kind of setting the piece.
Right. And I know you've done this quite a bit also, so go ahead and...
Well, it's been a long time since I've done it, but...
Okay. And I don't do the whole stepping stone at once because, first of all, I want to keep my pattern, and also it is quick set, so it dries out.
Right.
So then you just start putting in your pieces. Like so.
So you're kind of doing rows, but it's kind of up to the artist that's doing it as far as how they
Right.
do that.
What do you think?
Great. You think you have a certain amount of space that are you thinking about, or does that matter at all either as far as fitting the grout in? Is that a part of it or no?
I've noticed that these need to be a little closer together than I anticipated, because otherwise it doesn't look like water.
Oh, I see, as far as the design.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
So it might be a little more, usually when you're placing something, you make sure they don't touch,
Right.
because you want grout in between them. It's not so important on this. Ooh. And then you got to make sure that you're not leaving too much on the top.
Well, and you talked about the fact that this is a stepping stone, and you really want it to be foot safe and not have things to trip over or to wedge out later. So
Right.
oh, it's so pretty already.
And you can see how it's got the different colors in. You know, predominantly the light blue, but it's available at and it's so popular at the dollar store. And this is the same color, isn't it? Yeah.
So does it make a difference what color grout it is as far as, will that change the color of those marbles?
It does make them a little lighter.
Oh, okay.
I could have, I wondered if I wanted to even put some paint in this to make it blue. And I didn't with the other one that I did that you'll see shortly, so I didn't. But you could.
Right. Yeah, I was trying to think about the green pot, but those were all the solid pottery pieces. You didn't use the glass marbles in that.
No. Right.
Yes, our viewers don't know, but Kathy has a plan. She's making a whole little stream, and she has some tiles already done. So that's why she had a particular angle to how our little river runs through it, so to speak, because it has to kind of connect with the other ones.
There's some iridescent ones like this one. to add.
And so do your stepping stones live outside in the winter too, or do you have to bring them in Wisconsin?
Mine stayed outside last year, and they didn't all make it.
Okay.
Basically, it was because of the type of plate I used. The
okay.
ones that were of this stuff did well.
Mm-hmm.
I used some plates that had not were not fired well or something, and they didn't do well. This, the oldest plates of Blue Willow, did great.
Oh, huh.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, there. Okay, so this part of the river is done. Okay. Now I'm going to just show a couple other little things. I'm going to put a little place here.
Well, that mortar hasn't changed much in consistency. It doesn't seem to be drying up.
No, it's pretty good.
It's a cool morning this morning. That might help.
And I'm just going to add some rock. Now, sometimes if it's quite an odd shape, I add a little bit of mortar. Whoop. Well, that's the danger because you don't want to get, but if it's a real odd shape, and then you got to clean it off. And I've already got on my...
But it's not horrible. I mean, I noticed on the glass puddles you have some of the mortar sticking on, so apparently that's going to come off at some point.
It will. You got to clean it, but... All right, let me just finish this, and I'll show you a little bit. Oops. Okay. So that was my plan, and clean off some of the messiness.
Oh, so you clean it right now already. Okay.
I do because it just makes it easier for me. But
and now these, I see the spacing is a little farther apart, so it's because it's about the effect that you want, not how well they hold on or anything.
And then here I tend to use when things are a little bit odd, you can do it this way, where you do each one individual. Now, you can see most of my pieces are triangular or squarish that are not the natural. This is a broken plate. So that they kind of fit together easier.
Yeah, that's one nice thing about when you break them with the hammer, you get a lot of angular pieces, and that really works better for the curve, doesn't it? And you alternate like you've done.
Oh dear. My plan. Wait, how did I? Oh, that.
Yeah.
That way. I don't know, how did I do that? Maybe that one was there. No. Well, you can see that one thing is that you can just be creative and put your plan in, and well, that'll work.
Yeah, because when you have it grouted, there won't be any sharp corners as far as physical, right?
Right, and there won't be sharp corners because you can also sand it down. I have a machine to do that. So for filming, I have already completed one. And you can see how these two kind of fit together.
Isn't that interesting?
Okay, and
now how long have these been in here?
Yesterday.
Oh, just yesterday.
Yeah.
Okay.
They're ready to grout.
Oh, and I see you can scrape that off after it's dried. Some of that got on there by mistake. Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, that is a nice smooth surface even like that.
Right. And there's some that are a little bit higher because you want to try to make it level, but like I said, you don't want anybody slipping either. So a little bit of texture is good. Now, when you're working with plates, you want to make sure that you don't have rough edges, you know, so some poor grandchild who's barefoot doesn't cut their foot on it.
Right.
You wouldn't want anybody to have a sharp edge, and some of these plates' edges can be quite sharp. You don't have to worry, of course, about the stone or the round glass pieces. Now this is it. These are in here really cemented, so this is going to be okay. This is a Dremel, and it got this little like sanding thing there. And all I'm going to do is sand the edges that are sharp. And it's not like a wood sander that's going to really do a whole lot, but it does take off the real sharpness.
Yeah. And I can see, especially like on this one, it's kind of cupped. The piece of pottery that you used had an upward curve, so that'll really ensure that safety.
And you just go around. Whoa, did you see that? Move. Uh-oh. You just go around each piece, and especially try to get, you know, if there's a sharp corner or something. And then kind of see it. No, that feels pretty good. And then I have some more here.
Yeah, I imagine those outer edges are especially important because you're not going to have grout over that, or will the grout come up over the outside too?
I do make a little grouted edge.
Oh, okay.
Okay. I think we're good. Yeah.
Yeah, if it's not snagging your glove, I would think that it's not going to
Yeah.
snag a foot either.
Okay. All right, so now I would let this sit at least one day before I put any grout on. So we're ready now to make some grout. So I'm going to take another container and mix up my grout more or less the same way that I did the mortar. So we'll start this process.
So it looks like you just got to be brave in your mixing is how it looks, and just trust
I always try just to put in a little water because it's easy to put in too much water. And
so Kathy, you're being careful with the water because you didn't want too much mortar. Or what if you get too much mortar? I mean, is it just got to throw it out, or what?
Well, I have tried to save it, and it doesn't save well. So, I mean, I could come back to this maybe in a couple hours and maybe be able to use it with a little tiny bit more water, but you can't keep it overnight or anything like that. Many times when I have just a little left, I go fix a sidewalk crack or something like that with what's left. The one thing that you have to be aware of is when you clean up your hands, if you clean up this, if you clean up your rags, you can't do it in your kitchen sink or in any indoor sink because it will clog it, and you don't want that.
No, for sure.
In fact, I was in a workshop once where we used this and we couldn't even use the sinks in the building. at all. So when I need to clean up and something, I usually just use the hose outside. So now.
So you couldn't put it directly down a drain in the basement floor either? I mean, that wouldn't be wise either?
No.
Okay.
All right, so now to do the grout, it's very much like grouting in a kitchen or putting tile in a bathroom. You just spread it over the part that you want to grout.
Ooh, come back, pretty, come back.
I know. So you're kind of covering it all. It's kind of like frosting a cake.
Okay. And how do you have to? Are you applying pressure to put it between the little individual?
Yeah,
Okay.
Because this is all cemented in, so I'm.
Okay, so that's what's holding it as well as making it smoother.
Mm-hmm. And you can see now you use quite a bit of it because you're going to wipe it off, of course.
Mm-hmm.
And this takes some time. I'm not going to do the whole thing right now.
So there's no problem coming back then with the next band?
I mean, when I say I'm not going to do it all, I will do it all within probably a half hour.
Okay, so you can't do that bit by bit like you were using the mastic or the thin set to hold down? Okay.
I wouldn't. I suppose, I don't know, I suppose you could.
I don't know, it's always hard, with like construction materials, it's always hard to know if you have to keep wet edges on things and all that kind of stuff, It's a little different making a sidewalk than grouting a stepping stone. So did that scare you the first time you put all your work under that?
What's going to happen now?
Yeah.
But I will, for the sake of filming, stop there. And I'm going to wet a cloth. Just wet, not scrubby, okay? And then I'm just going to start wiping it off.
Oh, that quickly? Or is that just for the speed today? Or is that normally how you do it?
Normally how we do it.
Okay.
After it's all on.
Oh, and even the lines of your rag kind of add to the water idea, don't they?
Well, I'm going to, see, and then you wipe it away.
Oh, here they come back, shiny.
Yep. And these are rags that I will just toss.
Mm-hmm. So I can see where the color of the grout would really make a difference, won't it? As far as, with your dark rocks, you'd like that light. If you had really dark grout, you'd lose all your dark pieces.
Mm-hmm.
So
and then here in the rocky part, because it's so uneven, it does take a little more elbow grease there. And it's quite messy, so that's why we've worn our old clothes today.
That's what makes it a good outside project. But actually, some people, they work on it in their basement all winter long. And as long as you, like you said, you're wise about how you dispose of the cement-based materials. Yeah.
My old house's pipes that wouldn't take the mortar for sure. All right, so that's the start of it, and then you can do this part and do that part. Okay.
Yeah, it's nice and smooth already.
Here, then I just take my finger really.
Okay.
And on this kind of a stepping stone, I just make a finger edge there. And are you ready to see what it's going to look like?
Yes, for sure. I was noticing, Kathy, as I was looking at this, that you can use these in all different ways together.
Right.
I mean, you have a plan for a continuous stream, but that design is just so versatile.
And so have it there.
There-
This
oh,
is our
my.
finished one.
Uh-huh.
That's ready to put in the garden
Yeah,
after about a week.
That's very smooth. It's beautiful. And all the shine has come back to the puddles.
Yep. Yep. So that I will continue to clean off the grout here till it is that clean.
Mm-hmm.
With some nice dry cloths. That's why we go through so many of them.
Yeah, even at this stage, looking down the line, you can see how they're really going to work so well together. It's a very large display with smaller pieces.
Mm-hmm.
So do you have to use any kind of waterproofer underneath this, or set it on a special kind of surface, or?
No, because these are just, the cement blocks
Okay.
from the home improvement stores.
Mm-hmm.
You might want to dig them into the ground a little bit
Okay.
to make them, even and sturdy. But I've had good luck with not doing anything to them.
Oh, great, because we saw in your video of your garden just how much that added, especially, I really like how you use that bright orange and, in your garden and through the stepping stones. It's amazing how that just works with every season. It's just an exciting color to see, because you don't see that in nature that much other than in autumn, so it's kind of fun to see it
Well, this is
year-round.
This is, you can start off by just making a stepping stone with a flower or whatever, and not try to do something that's works together. Because I have found in my yard, like you said, different stepping stones just make it interesting.
Right.
And they don't have to work together. I just wanted to try that today.
Well, I kind of like this idea as far as, avoiding too much chaos visually, depending on how you're using it. If you're going to have a long row of these, it would be I like how it is continuous. I mean, they're each individual, like you say. They each are stand alone, but they also together, they make a nice little...
And I did try to find some things that would unify it. So that's why I repeated certain things. But then I have some new things in each one, and that's what I plan to do.
So it's quite a difference from when you look at these black rocks to how they end up in the high contrast. You can see more of the rhythm of the shapes that you used.
Yeah, these all have to be cleaned off a little bit.
Well, that's really beautiful. And actually, it gets, once you get everything assembled, it really went quite quickly. I mean, we stopped what you were doing there, but they actually assembled the actual assembly.
Well, I could
time
get back
isn't
to
that
this
much.
one, and this one will be the grouting process doesn't take that long. So,
Well, I
gonna-
think that the trick that you're doing is doing it immediately. I guess when I used to work, especially on round ones, you get so excited about what you're doing, you don't go back quick enough and take all that off. So
yeah. So now I've got my work cut out for me because I've got to finish grouting and finish mortaring. Now again, just to review, when I mortar, I will leave it for an entire day or at least a day to set. It says quick set, but it needs some time. Then you get your grout ready and you grout it. And then your finished product, you still need to let season and really dry before you put it outside for at least a week.
okay, do you wrap it up in
indoors.
plastic during that time? Like sometimes with cement they cover it up with plastic when it's hot.
I wasn't instructed to do that.
Okay.
I just leave it indoors and or in the garage and just let it dry out
and
before I put it in the...
That must be the way, because your other ones have held together really well.
Right.
So.
So it essentially is at least a 3-day process because some people, take a while for the design. It took me a little while just to gather all my ideas and figure out what I was doing. So Pique Assiette can be used not just for stepping stones, but for other garden objects. I showed this pot that I've made, and this is a bird bath.
I like how you use the pre-made tiles for the inner lining here for this upper edge. That really works out well.
Right.
It must make it easier for cleaning too.
I'm such a scrounger for materials.
Well, that's what it takes. I mean, that's kind of fun to, that's half of the excitement, I think, is just finding this little thing that, a little piece of pot or a color scheme that you see that really prompts you to
And I know
do
you've
something
done
else.
some of this in your garden.
Yeah, I've done a lot of three-dimensional objects, the bowling balls with the mosaic, and I always like to find bird bath stands along the curbside. Lots of times once you break a basin, then what are you going to do with the base, because you can't find matching ones, so that's always usually a source for things like that. And then like cement benches to mosaic the top of those, or a cement post and mosaic those. There's a lot of different, anything that's made out of cement or cement board, you can mosaic
Well,
tops.
let's share some pictures of from your garden with our viewers. And viewers, if you would like to send in pictures of some of your garden projects that you have used with Pique Assiette, we would love to see them and add them to this.
Yeah, a lot of people do a lot of different, well, Cindy Meyer's garden too, all the things that she has done as well, so it's kind of fun. Wisconsin seems to have a folk art tradition of the cement and found objects, you know, the Fred Smith's cement garden up in Phillips, and then the Dickeyville Grotto, and there's a number of artists in northern Wisconsin that work in concrete outdoor sculpture. So it's kind of fun. I mean, it's kind of one of those quirky things about Wisconsin. Must be the long winters. But yes, it would be great to if people who do that in the area could send us some photos and we can get a little collection going.
And they send it to
Joan at BarabooPublicLibrary.org. Yay!
Well, thanks for coming over today.
Well,
and doing
this is so much
with me.
fun, yeah.
We've got to get busy and get finished.